just 3 days earlier. George Smith IV and Jennifer were still laughing happily by the railing of cabin 962, watching the Mediterranean sunset on the 4th day of their dream honeymoon. But on the morning of July 5, 2005, when Emily Roche, a 16-year-old girl from Chicago, happened to glance down at the deck below, what she saw turned the Royal Caribbean cruise into the scene of one of the most mysterious cases at sea. The vivid red bloodstains on the lifeboat canopy not only marked the end of a newly begun marriage, but could also be evidence of a brutal crime that took place in the heart of the azure Aegean Sea. The story of George and Jennifer Smith, a honeymoon trip that seemed blissful, ended in a tragedy that remains unexplained to this day. George Smith IV was born and raised in an affluent family in Greenwich, Connecticut, one of the most prestigious areas in the state. George's childhood was filled with laughter and love from his family, especially from his father, George Smith Sr., a successful businessman who owned a well-known liquor store in the area. From a young age, George displayed excellent communication skills and a friendly personality. Friends always described him as cheerful, never causing trouble, and always ready to help others. He was known for his kind heart, always putting others' interests first. After graduating from Babson College in Massachusetts in 2000 with a degree in business, George worked for a time as a data analyst in Boston. This job helped him gain valuable experience in market analysis and financial management. However, his deep love for his family and sense of responsibility toward the family legacy eventually led him back to his hometown in Connecticut to help his father manage the family liquor store, preparing to take over the business in the future. At 26, George was not only seen as a promising young entrepreneur with far-reaching vision and strong management skills, but also as an exemplary, dutiful son. Those who knew George described him as a responsible, reliable man with a bright future ahead. Jennifer was also a native of Connecticut, born into a middle-class family with a strong tradition of education. She chose to become an elementary school teacher, not only because of her love for children, but also due to her desire to shape the future of the younger generation. Jennifer's personality was described as gentle and kind, yet admirably resolute. In the classroom, she was highly regarded by colleagues and parents for her dedicated teaching and humane approach to students, who adored her. The fateful meeting between Jennifer and George took place one weekend afternoon in 2002 at a mutual friend's birthday party. According to those present, something special happened the moment they first saw each other. George, with his handsome appearance and humorous personality, immediately caught Jennifer's attention. Meanwhile, Jennifer's gentle beauty and intelligence captivated George. Their love blossomed naturally and sincerely. Jennifer was particularly impressed by George's maturity and far-reaching vision for developing the family business. Most importantly, George's family quickly grew fond of Jennifer. The Smith family appreciated her kindness, intelligence, and genuine love for their son. The relationship between Jennifer and the Smith family developed naturally and warmly. In 2005, after 3 years of dating, when George was 26 and Jennifer 25, they decided to marry. The wedding was held at Castle Hill Inn in Newport, Rhode Island, one of the most romantic locations on the east coast of the United States. The hotel, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, provided a picturesque backdrop for their special day. It was truly a dream wedding, attended by nearly 200 guests, including both families, friends, and colleagues. Both families felt joyful about the union, not only as a bond of two hearts, but also as a harmonious merging of two families with shared values and traditions. To commemorate their new marriage, the young couple chose a special and luxurious honeymoon, a 12-day cruise on Royal Caribbean. The trip was meticulously planned. Starting from Barcelona on June 29, 2005, and visiting famous destinations like France's Côte d'Azur, with its white sandy beaches and crystal-clear waters, followed by Italy's coastline with its ancient romantic cities. The Royal Caribbean cruise ship was not just a mode of transport, but a floating city with every luxury. With over 3,000 passengers and crew members, the ship offered the ultimate experience for couples enjoying their honeymoons. George and Jennifer were assigned to cabin 962 on Deck 9, a cabin with a private balcony overlooking the endless sea. From the first days, the newlyweds quickly immersed themselves in the lively atmosphere on the ship. They soon befriended Josh Askin, a 20-year-old from California. Josh's humorous, energetic personality and storytelling skills created an instant connection with the couple. The three quickly became close, participating together in the ship's entertainment activities from morning to night. On July 1st, when the cruise docked at a small coastal city in Italy, the group explored the area together. George frequently took photos of Jennifer against beautiful backdrops, photos that later became the final memories of their happy days. By July 4th, the cruise had reached the beautiful island of Mykonos in Greece. George and Jennifer spent the morning and afternoon exploring the island, feeling as though they were living in a dream where time stood still for them to savor their love and happiness. That afternoon, they purchased a bottle of absinthe at a local liquor store. The drink, known for its distinctive green color and high alcohol content of up to 70%, was described by the shopkeeper as a traditional European spirit. Once banned in many countries due to rumors of its hallucinogenic effects, but now legally produced with safety standards. On the evening of July 4th, after returning to the ship, George and Jennifer enjoyed a romantic dinner at the ship's main restaurant. The atmosphere between them was relaxed and joyful as they laughed and planned the rest of their trip. Around 9 p.m., they met up with Josh and decided to explore the ship's evening entertainment. Their first stop was the casino. George and Josh were drawn to the craps table, a game requiring luck and skill in reading the odds. Meanwhile, Jennifer opted for the poker table, where she could showcase the observation and calculation skills honed through her teaching career. At the casino, they met three other young men: Greg Rosenberg, a 19-year-old student from New York with Russian roots, known for his stubborn and boastful personality; his cousin, Zach Rosenberg, quieter but always sticking close to Greg; and Rostislav Kaufman, a seemingly calm but equally enthusiastic participant in group activities. The group of six quickly bonded. They played cards, drank, and shared stories about their lives. Greg bragged about his wealthy family and luxurious trips. Josh talked about student life in California, with its beautiful beaches. George shared his plans to grow the family liquor store. And Jennifer spoke about her beloved students, though they won and lost at the games. The atmosphere remained cheerful and relaxed. George lost a significant amount at the craps table, but didn't seem worried, viewing it as part of the honeymoon entertainment. Jennifer also lost a little at poker, but was thrilled with the experience. Around 1A, Lloyd Botha, the casino manager, joined the group. Lloyd, a charming man in his 30s with experience dealing with guests, invited them to try special cocktails and shared entertaining stories about famous passengers who had visited the casino. The last surveillance footage captured George leaving the casino at 2:30 a.m. On July 5th. In the footage, he was still laughing and talking with friends, appearing slightly drunk but otherwise normal. No one in the group could have imagined this would be the last image of George Smith IV alive after leaving the casino. The group decided to continue the party at the ship's nightclub, a place with vibrant music, dazzling laser lights, and a space for dancing. There, they opened the bottle of absinthe George and Jennifer had bought in Mykonos. The green liquor had a bitter taste and an extremely high alcohol content. Drinking absinthe marked a turning point in the evening. Everyone became intoxicated faster than usual, and their moods began to shift. Jennifer, who rarely drank, became visibly drunk quickly. She started acting affectionately toward Lloyd Botha, which clearly bothered George. Some witnesses reported seeing a minor argument between George and Jennifer. Jennifer even hit George, though it was unclear whether it was playful or out of genuine anger. The situation grew more complicated as Lloyd continued to show attention to Jennifer, and she didn't seem to mind. The 3 Russian men in the group continued drinking heavily and became louder. They were refused further alcohol service due to their excessive intoxication and inappropriate behavior. Greg, in particular, was upset about this and used harsh words with the staff. Around 3:30 a.m., Jennifer decided to leave the nightclub. She was heavily intoxicated, unsteady on her feet, and needed assistance from ship staff. Instead of being taken directly to her cabin, Jennifer collapsed in a hallway near the elevator, unable to stand. George, meanwhile, stayed behind with the group of men. Josh and the 3 Russians decided to help George back to his cabin. Seeing he was also quite drunk, they escorted him to cabin 962, took off his shoes, and left him on the bed. At this point, Jennifer was not in the cabin. At 4:52 a.m., ship staff used a wheelchair to bring Jennifer back to cabin 962. This was the last officially recorded moment. When the cabin door was opened, George was not there. The bed showed signs that someone had been lying on it, but George had vanished without a trace. Cleet Hyman and Patricia Hyman, the couple in the adjacent cabin 960, became the most crucial auditory witnesses in the case. They were a middle-aged couple celebrating their wedding anniversary, and their room was separated from cabin 962 by only a thin wall around 4A. They were awakened by strange noises from the neighboring cabin. First, there were loud voices, sounding like a heated argument. Mr. Hyman described them as male voices, arguing about something significant. The strangest detail was that they repeatedly heard the phrase, "good night," said multiple times in different voices. This was followed by sounds of banging and furniture being moved. The climax was a loud thud, which Mr. Hyman described as sounding like something heavy falling onto the canopy below. The sound was strong enough to startle both Hymans, who exchanged worried glances. Finally, there was a woman's scream, but the Hymans couldn't be certain where it came from, or if it was related to the incident. Most importantly, they witnessed 3 young men leaving the area of Cabin 962 after the noises stopped. Mr. Hyman, looking through a small window, described them as young men who appeared hurried and didn't speak to each other. On the morning of July 5th, 2005, Emily Roosh, a 16-year-old from Chicago vacationing with her family, inadvertently became the first to discover traces of a tragedy. Around 8 a.m., while standing on Deck 7 admiring the sea, Emily looked down and noticed vivid red bloodstains on the lifeboat canopy below. The blood was not only on the canopy, but also splattered around, creating a chilling image suggesting someone had been severely injured and possibly fallen from a height. Emily immediately ran to find her parents and alerted the nearest crew member. The news spread like wildfire across the ship. Other passengers gathered at Deck 7, and many took photos of the scene before being stopped by crew members. These photos later became crucial evidence in the investigation. The news quickly made headlines in international media, turning the Royal Caribbean cruise into the center of a potentially world-shaking criminal mystery. Captain Mike Jones, with over 20 years of maritime experience, immediately ordered a full ship inspection to determine the source of the bloodstains. The ship's security team was deployed to systematically search every deck and cabin. The initial search focused on identifying any missing passengers. A passenger list check was conducted, and George Smith Four was identified as unreachable. Captain Jones ordered the security team to inspect Cabin 962, where George and Jennifer were registered. When the door to Cabin 962 was opened, the scene inside shocked those present. The room was in unimaginable disarray. It wasn't just typical tourist clutter. There were clear signs of a violent struggle. Clothes were scattered everywhere. Furniture was overturned, and, most alarmingly, bloodstains were found in multiple locations. In the bathroom, investigators found small bloodstains on the mirror, sink, and floor. The stains varied in size, from pinhead-sized drops to streaks about 5 to 10 centimeters long. The blood spatter pattern suggested someone had been injured in the head or face and moved around the bathroom. On the bedroom's shag carpet, there was a circular blood stain about 3 centimeters in diameter, surrounded by smaller drops. This indicated someone had stood there for a time after being injured. A towel in the bathroom also had blood stains, possibly from wiping a wound. Particularly significant were 2 blood stains on the bedsheet, each about 2 mm in diameter. DNA testing later confirmed this was George Smith's blood. The location of these stains suggested George may have been lying on the bed after being injured. On the balcony, investigators found the most notable clues. A white plastic chair, usually placed in the corner of the balcony, had been moved close to the railing. The chair had unidentifiable smudges and signs that someone had sat or stood on it. More critically, there were bloodstains and marks on the railing, suggesting someone had tried to climb over or was pushed over. The balcony floor also had scattered blood drops, forming a trail from the door to the railing. This suggested an injured person had moved from inside the room to the balcony, possibly in a panic or under coercion. Outside, Cabin 962 investigators found additional noteworthy details. The hallway carpet had bloody footprints, indicating someone had passed through after contacting blood. The footprints varied in size, suggesting at least 2 or 3 people were at the scene. The hallway's security camera system was mysteriously blind between 3:30 and 5:00 a.m. This could have been a coincidence or an intentional act to conceal activity. The camera near the elevator functioned normally and captured 3 young men leaving Deck 9 around 4:30 a.m. It took nearly 2 hours to locate Jennifer. She was finally found at the ship's spa at 10 a.m., undergoing a pre-scheduled facial massage. Surprisingly, Jennifer appeared strangely calm when informed of her husband's disappearance. When brought to the captain's office, Jennifer expressed surprise when asked about George. She said she hadn't seen him since the previous evening and assumed he was with friends. She explained that George often stayed out late with Josh and thought he might have slept in Josh's cabin. However, investigators quickly confirmed George was not in Josh's cabin or anywhere else on the ship. When informed about the bloodstains, Jennifer appeared shocked and began crying. Some present noted that her reaction seemed unnatural, since the cruise was in international waters, but closest to Turkey. Turkish police were called to conduct a preliminary investigation. The team, led by Inspector Mehmet Polat, boarded the ship at noon that day. Inspector Polat, with over 15 years of homicide investigation experience, immediately recognized the seriousness of the case. He stated that this was not a simple accident and that the scene showed clear signs of violence and possibly murder. Jennifer's interrogation by Turkish police was tense. She was assisted by a lawyer from the cruise company and an interpreter. She recounted the events of the night, but had significant memory gaps. Jennifer stated that she only remembered going out with friends, drinking, and playing cards. She felt exhausted and wanted to return to the cabin, but couldn't recall what happened afterward. She emphasized that she remembered nothing after 2:30 a.m. And woke up in the morning without George. What raised suspicion was Jennifer's claim that a crew member in a white uniform knocked on the cabin door early that morning to inform her that her husband might have fallen overboard. However, no crew member admitted to doing this, and there was no record of such a notification in the ship's logs based on the scene. Inspector Polat proposed 2 main hypotheses. First, George could have fallen overboard from the balcony of cabin 962 while intoxicated. The bloodstains could have resulted from him hitting his head on the railing or furniture before falling. However, the second hypothesis was more serious. George may have been attacked in the cabin, severely injured, and then thrown overboard to cover up the crime. The cabin's disarray, significant blood volume, and the chair's position near the railing supported this theory. With his extensive experience, Inspector Polat stated that the bloodstains were inconsistent with a simple accident. There were signs of a struggle, and someone had attempted to clean the scene. When they saw he was heavily intoxicated, they removed his shoes and left him to sleep. But Jennifer was not there. Josh also revealed that Jennifer seemed interested in Lloyd Botha, which may have caused tension in the young marriage. However, surveillance footage showed Jennifer leaving the nightclub at 3:30 a.m., while Lloyd returned to his cabin at 3:25 a.m. Confirmed by his girlfriend, this partially dispelled suspicions about a relationship between Jennifer and Lloyd. The 3 Russian men, Greg, Zach, and Rostislav, gave conflicting statements. They admitted to drinking absinthe with George and Jennifer and being in the area at the critical time. They had been refused further alcohol service, due to excessive intoxication. The FBI took over the case and conducted an extensive investigation. They administered polygraph tests to Jennifer and Lloyd Botha, both of whom passed. However, Josh Askin failed his polygraph test, suggesting he might be hiding important information. Greg Rosenberg claimed they ordered food to create an alibi, but the ship's records did not confirm this. As room service was blocked at that time, there were inconsistencies about who left the cabin first, and Greg seemed to know more than he admitted. Several theories have been proposed for this mysterious case. First, George and Jennifer might have been carrying a large sum of money from wedding gifts or casino winnings, possibly tens of thousands of dollars. George wore an expensive Breitling watch, and Jennifer had a valuable engagement ring. The bloodstains could have resulted from a robbery. The cabin's disarray might indicate a search for valuables. Notably, 4 people entered the cabin, but only 3 were seen leaving, suggesting someone may have stayed behind. Second, the use of high-proof absinthe could have led to an accident while intoxicated. However, legally sold absinthe in Europe has a lower potency and is unlikely to cause hallucinations unless consumed in extreme quantities, potentially leading to fatal poisoning. This theory is less convincing due to the signs of violence at the scene. Third, the group might have used other illegal substances, explaining their rapid intoxication between 2:30 and 3:30 a.m. Jennifer's behavior after George's disappearance raised questions. Her surprising calmness, attending a scheduled massage as if nothing had happened, and initial lack of cooperation with police made many suspicious. However, this could also be explained by psychological shock or a subconscious defense mechanism. Josh Askin, with his failed polygraph and inconsistent statements, may be hiding critical information. However, this doesn't necessarily mean he was directly involved in George's death. The 3 Russian men displayed a joking attitude about the case, which could be a way to cope with stress or hide guilt. Their invocation of the Fifth Amendment suggests they have something to conceal, though not necessarily related to George's death. The Smith family hired independent expert Henry Lee to review the scene. He concluded that, given the railing's height, it was unlikely George fell accidentally unless he was pushed or completely out of control. Lee proposed conducting a simulation experiment to test the theories, but this was rejected. His findings were not made public. Adding to the case's mystery, the Smith family, particularly George's parents, George Smith Sr. and Maureen Smith, have tirelessly sought justice for their son. After George's death, they embarked on a nearly 2-decade-long, painful journey requiring immense emotional strength and financial resources. Their first step was requesting the case be transferred from the FBI's Connecticut office to New York. Hoping a new investigative team would offer a fresh perspective and uncover missed clues, George Smith Sr. shared that they felt the case was being buried in Connecticut and that George deserved a better investigation. In 2006, the family offered a $100,000 reward for any information leading to the case's resolution. This was a significant sum for a small business family, but they were willing to sacrifice everything for their son. Maureen Smith said the money could have bought a house, but they would rather use it to find the truth about George. The Smith family's call to boycott Royal Caribbean gained support from passenger rights organizations. They accused the cruise company of not fully cooperating with the investigation and attempting to conceal information to protect its brand reputation. The relationship between the Smith family and Jennifer went through complex stages. Initially, they suspected Jennifer due to her unusual behavior after George's disappearance. Her receipt of $1 million from George's life insurance policy made the family feel betrayed. However, over time, and after further investigations, the Smith family gradually accepted that Jennifer might be innocent. They realized their grief may have led them to misjudge their daughter-in-law. George Smith Sr. stated that they had treated her unfairly and that Jennifer had also lost the husband she loved. The FBI officially closed the George Smith case in 2015, concluding there was insufficient evidence to charge anyone. However, closing the case did not end the story. The case was classified as death under unclear circumstances, rather than an accident or murder. George's body was never found, leaving his family without the closure of a proper burial. Now, in their 70s, George and Maureen Smith continue to hope that one day the truth will come to light, vowing to keep seeking justice for their son. The case of George Smith IV has become more than an unsolved mystery. It is a symbol of profound questions about justice, truth, and how we confront inexplicable tragedies. This story lives on in the hearts of those who believe every life has value and every family deserves the truth.